Between June 14th and June 22nd, 1979, 7 people checked into the Desert Star Motel on Highway 90, 30 miles outside of El Paso, Texas. All 7 were traveling alone. All 7 asked for rooms on the ground floor. All 7 were given keys by the same night clerk. And all 7 were murdered in their sleep, strangled, stabbed, or suffocated over the course of 9 nights. The killer didn't run, didn't hide. Every morning he cleaned the rooms, disposed of the bodies, and waited for the next guest to arrive. This is the story of Luther Hayes, the motel clerk who turned his workplace into a hunting ground. June 23, 1979, 10:47 a.m. El Paso Police Department received a call from the Desert Star Motel manager, Vernon Alcott. His voice was shaking. "I need police out here, now. I found something in one of the rooms." When officers arrived 18 minutes later, they found Vernon sitting in the motel office, pale and trembling. He'd been the motel's general manager for 6 years. He'd seen plenty over that time: overdoses, domestic disputes, the occasional robbery, but nothing like this. "Room 14, Vernon told the officers. "I went in to check why the guest hadn't checked out. The door was locked from the outside. I used my master key and—" He couldn't finish. Officer Maria Gonzalez and her partner, Officer Tim Bradford, walked to room 14. The door was ajar. Vernon had left it open after discovering the scene. Gonzalez pushed the door wider. The room was neat, bed made, no signs of struggle, but there was a smell, faint but unmistakable: death. Gonzalez checked the bathroom. Empty. Bradford checked the closet. Empty. Then Gonzalez noticed the bedspread. It was pulled tight, tucked in carefully. Too carefully. She pulled back the covers. A body. Female, mid-40s, fully clothed, lying on top of the sheets, then covered with the bedspread and tucked in like she was sleeping. Bruises around her neck, eyes open, mouth slightly agape. She'd been dead at least 2 days. Gonzalez radioed for homicide and a medical examiner. While they waited, Bradford questioned Vernon about the victim. "Who checked in to room 14? Vernon pulled the registry. "Beverly Stein, checked in June 20th, solo traveler, said she was passing through on her way to San Antonio, paid cash for 2 nights. "Did she check out?" "No, that's why I went to check on her. It's June 23rd, she's 3 days overdue." "Who else is staying here now?" Vernon scanned the registry. Just 2 other rooms occupied, room 8 and room 22. Something about that triggered Gonzalez's instincts. Show me those rooms. The guests might still be. Show me, now. Room 8 was registered to Wayne Patterson, truck driver, checked in June 14th. Vernon knocked. No answer. He unlocked the door. The room looked empty, clean, bed made. But Gonzalez noticed the same thing: the bedspread pulled too tight. She lifted it. Another body. Male, mid-50s, wearing jeans and a t-shirt. Bruises around the throat. Dead several days. Bradford's face went white. "We need to check room 22. Room 22 was registered to Norman Keller, musician, checked in June 21st. This room wasn't as neat. Suitcase open on the luggage rack, clothes scattered. But the bed, same tight bedspread. Gonzalez pulled it back. A young man, late 20s, strangled, dead maybe 36 hours. 3 bodies, 3 rooms, all hidden under bedspreads. Bradford turned to Vernon. "Who's your night clerk?" Vernon's voice was barely a whisper. "Luther Hayes. He's worked here for 2 years." "Where is he?" He works 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. He should be home sleeping. Get me his address, now. By 11:30 a.m., El Paso police had set up a perimeter around the Desert Star Motel. Homicide detectives began processing the 3 rooms. Medical examiner Dr. Paul Chan arrived to examine the bodies, and a tactical team was dispatched to Luther Hayes' apartment, a 1-bedroom unit 4 miles from the motel. At 11:25 p.m., they knocked on Luther's door. No answer. They knocked again, announced themselves. "Luther Hayes, this is El Paso Police. Open the door." Silence. They breached the door. The apartment was dark, curtains drawn, the smell of cigarettes and old food. They cleared the bedroom, bathroom, kitchen. Empty. Luther Hayes was gone. But on his kitchen table they found something. A notebook, spiral-bound, filled with handwriting. Detective Richard Moreno opened it and started reading. His hands began to shake. "Get homicide over here, right now." Luther Hayes' notebook contained a detailed log of every guest who'd checked in to the Desert Star Motel during his shift over the past 9 days. Names, room numbers, check-in times, car descriptions, and next to 7 of those names, Luther had written notes. June 14, Wayne Patterson, room 8. Solo male, truck driver, no family expecting him, no calls, vulnerable. Status, completed. June 16, Judith Romano, room 5. Solo female, sales rep, talk too much, easy. Status, completed. June 17, Carl and Rita Benson, room 11. Elderly couple, retired, sweet, quick. Status, completed. June 19, Isaiah Cruz, room 3. Construction worker, tired, didn't lock chain. Status, completed. June 20th, Beverly Stein, room 14. Nurse, alone, sleeping pills on nightstand, barely struggled. Status, completed. June 21st, Norman Keller, room 22. Musician, guitar in room, sad songs, he won't sing anymore. Status, completed. 7 people, 7 murders over 9 nights, and Luther Hayes had documented every single one. The Desert Star Motel wasn't much to look at. Single story, 24 rooms in an L shape around a small parking lot. Neon sign out front that buzzed and flickered. Office at the corner with a window facing the lot. Built in 1954, the motel had seen better days. Faded turquoise paint, rusted railings, cracked asphalt. But it was cheap, $18 a night, and it was right on Highway 90, the main route between El Paso and San Antonio. Travelers used it as a stopover. Truck drivers, salespeople, families on tight budgets, drifters passing through. The kind of place where people paid cash, didn't ask questions, and left early. The perfect hunting ground for someone like Luther Hayes. The Desert Star Motel. Layout. The motel was divided into 2 wings. East wing, rooms 1 through 12, closer to the highway, louder, cheaper rooms. Most guests stayed here. West wing, rooms 13 through 24, quieter, slightly more expensive, $20 a night, further from the road. The office, small building at the junction of both wings, check-in desk, manager's office, storage room, break room for staff. Behind the motel, desert, miles of scrubland, no buildings, no witnesses, just sand, cacti, and darkness. The motel had minimal security. No cameras, too expensive. No night security guard, just the clerk. Weak locks on room doors, old hardware. Master keys kept in the office, easily accessible. Manager Vernon Alcott worked days, 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. Assistant manager Donna Reeves worked evenings, 3 p.m. to 11 p.m. Night clerk Luther Hayes worked nights, 11 a.m. to 7 a.m. For 8 hours every night, Luther was alone, completely alone, with sleeping guests, with master keys, with the desert behind him. Who was Luther Hayes? Luther Franklin Hayes was born in 1932 in Odessa, Texas. His father, Raymond Hayes, was an oil rig worker who drank heavily and disappeared when Luther was 6. His mother, Constance Hayes, worked as a motel maid in Midland, Texas. She raised Luther alone, moving from motel to motel as she found work. Luther grew up in motel rooms, transient, rootless, watching strangers come and go. He was a quiet child. Teachers described him as withdrawn and odd. He had no friends, spent most of his time reading paperback westerns or walking alone in the desert. At 18, Luther joined the Army, served 2 years, honorable discharge, no combat, no disciplinary issues, just unremarkable. After the Army, Luther drifted, worked odd jobs, gas stations, warehouses, diners. In 1962, at age 30, he got a job as a night clerk at a motel in Amarillo. He stayed for 8 years. In 1970, he moved to Lubbock, stayed 3 years. In 1973, he moved to Abilene, another motel, another 4 years. And in 1977, he arrived at the Desert Star Motel in El Paso. 45 years old, no wife, no children, no friends, no life outside the motel. Vernon Alcott hired him because Luther was reliable, punctual, quiet, didn't cause problems. He was perfect for the night shift, Vernon later told police. Didn't need supervision, kept the place clean, handled guests politely. I never had a single complaint. But Vernon didn't know what Luther did when the lights went out. Luther's routine. Every night, 11 p.m. to 7 a.m., Luther worked alone. His duties: check in late arrivals, handle guest requests, keep office clean, walk the grounds, security check, prepare morning coffee. It was boring work. Most nights, nothing happened. A guest would check in around midnight, maybe someone would call for extra towels, otherwise, silence. Luther would sit in the office, reading paperback westerns, drinking coffee, watching the empty parking lot. But sometime in early June 1979, something changed. Police would later find earlier notebooks in Luther's apartment, journals dating back to 1975. In those journals, Luther wrote about his fantasies, about control, about power, about what it felt like to hold someone's life in his hands. He wrote about guests he watched, studied, imagined killing. But he never acted until June 14th, 1979. The night Wayne Patterson checked in.
7 people died at the Desert Star Motel between June 14th and June 22nd, 1979. Here's who they were. Victim 1, Wayne Patterson, age 54. Wayne was a long-haul truck driver from Oklahoma City. He'd been driving trucks for 30 years, divorced, 2 adult children he rarely saw, lived alone in a small apartment near the freight depot. Wayne's life was the road. He'd haul loads across Texas, New Mexico, Arizona, sleep in truck stops and cheap motels, eat at diners, keep moving. On June 14, 1979, Wayne was hauling refrigerated goods from El Paso to Houston. He'd planned to drive straight through, but his engine developed trouble outside El Paso. The repair shop said it would take until morning. Wayne needed a place to sleep. He pulled into the Desert Star Motel at 11:43 p.m. Luther was working the night shift. "Just need a room for the night. Heading out first thing," Wayne said. Heading out first thing. Luther smiled. Room 8, ground floor, quiet. Wayne paid $18 cash, took the key, walked to his room. He never walked out. Luther's journal entry. Wayne Patterson, truck driver, room 8, No family with him, no phone calls, truck in the lot, but he'll be gone by morning anyway. People like him disappear all the time. Nobody looks for them. I watched him through the window. He turned off the light at 12:30 a.m. I waited until 2 a.m. Then I used the master key. He was sleeping on his back, snoring. I stood over him for 5 minutes, just watching, feeling the power. Then I put my hands around his throat. He woke up, tried to fight, but I'm stronger than I look, and he was groggy, confused. It took 3 minutes, maybe 4. His eyes went wide, then empty. I straightened the room, made the bed with him in it, tucked the bedspread tight. From the outside, it just looked like a neat bed. At 3 a.m., I moved his truck to the back of the lot, made it look like he'd left. At 6 a.m., I put a Do Not Disturb sign on his door. When Vernon came in at 7, I told room 8 had checked out early. Wayne Patterson is still in that room, and nobody knows. Wayne's body remained in room 8 for 9 days. Victim 2, Judith Romano, age 38. Judith was a pharmaceutical sales representative from Dallas. Smart, ambitious, successful. She traveled across Texas selling medical equipment to hospitals and clinics. Judith was married to Marco Romano. They had a 10-year-old daughter, Angela. On June 15th, Judith called Marco from a payphone in El Paso. "I'm staying over one more night. Meeting ran late. I'll be home tomorrow." Marco said okay, told Angela her mom would be home soon. Judith never came home. She checked into the Desert Star Motel at 11:52 p.m. on June 16th. Luther's Journal. Judith Romano, room 5, sales rep, talks a lot, asked about breakfast options, complained about the AC, annoying. She left her door unlocked, just the knob lock, not the chain. I waited until 3 a.m., used the master key anyway. Quieter. She was sleeping on her side. I used a pillow, pressed it over her face. She struggled more than Wayne, kicked, clawed at my arms, but she couldn't scream. 6 minutes, then she stopped moving. I cleaned under her fingernails, didn't want my skin there. Tucked her in. She looks peaceful now. I'll tell Vernon she checked out early for a meeting. People like her are always in a hurry. Judith's husband Marco reported her missing on June 18th when she didn't return home. El Paso PD took a report, put out a BLO for her car. Her car was found in the Desert Star parking lot on June 19th, but by then, Judith had been dead for 3 days, and Luther had already killed again. Victim 3 and 4, Carl and Rita Benson, ages 62 and 59. Carl and Rita were retired school teachers from Albuquerque. They'd been married 40 years, spent their retirement traveling the Southwest in their RV. On June 17th, their RV broke down outside El Paso. A mechanic said it would take 2 days to get parts. Carl and Rita needed a place to stay. They checked into the Desert Star at 10:15 p.m., room 11. Luther's Journal. Elderly couple, Carl and Rita Benson, room 11. Retired teachers, sweet people. They showed me photos of their grandchildren. They're in their 60s, fragile. This will be easy. I waited until 3:25 a.m. Carl was a light sleeper, woke up when I came in, asked what I was doing. I told him there was a gas leak. I needed to check the room. He believed me. I strangled him first. Rita woke up screaming. I had to move fast. I used a pillow on her. She didn't fight much, just cried. 2 bodies, harder to hide, but I managed. Tucked them both in, side by side, like they're sleeping together. They loved each other. At least they died together.
I moved their RV behind the motel, told Vernon they decided to leave early. Carl and Rita's son reported them missing on June 20th. Their RV was found on June 24th, after Luther's arrest. Their bodies were still in room 11.
Victim 5, Isaiah Cruz, age 31. Isaiah was a construction worker from Juarez, Mexico. He'd crossed the border legally for work. He sent most of his money home to his wife, Paloma, and their 3 young children. Isaiah worked long days, 12-hour shifts pouring concrete in the El Paso heat. On June 19th, he was too tired to drive back to Juarez. He checked in to the Desert Star at 11:07 p.m. Luther's Journal. Isaiah Cruz, room 3, construction worker, Mexican, doesn't speak much English, paid cash, exhausted. He fell asleep with his work boots still on. I waited until 1 a.m. He never woke up. I used a cord from the window blinds, wrapped it around his neck. He made a sound, like a cough, then nothing. Easiest one yet. I took the $87 from his wallet. He won't need it. His wife is probably waiting for him. She'll keep waiting. Isaiah's wife Paloma reported him missing to Juarez police on June 21st. American authorities weren't notified until June 25th after Luther's arrest. Isaiah's body was in room 3 for 4 days before anyone found it. Victim 6, Beverly Stein, age 44. Beverly was a nurse from Austin. She'd been working at Austin General Hospital for 18 years, ER nurse, trauma specialist. She'd saved countless lives. In June 1979, Beverly's mother in San Antonio had a stroke. Beverly took emergency leave to help care for her. On June 20th, Beverly was driving from Austin to San Antonio when her car overheated outside El Paso. She pulled into the Desert Star to wait for a tow truck. She checked in at 11:55 p.m., room 14. Luther's Journal. Beverly Stein, room 14, nurse, traveling alone. She has sleeping pills. I saw the bottle when she opened her purse. She took 2 pills at 11:30. I watched through the window. At 2 a.m., I used the master key. She was deep asleep. The pills did their job. I used a plastic bag, held it over her face until she stopped breathing. She never woke up. This is my favorite so far. No struggle, no violence, just sleep. She's still in the bed. Looks like she's resting. I'll tell Vernon she checked out. Nobody will ask. Beverly's mother died on June 22nd. Beverly never arrived to say goodbye. Her brother filed a missing person report on June 23rd. By then, Beverly had been dead 3 days. Her body was the first one found. Victim 7, Norman Keller, age 29. Norman was a struggling musician from Nashville. He played guitar and sang in bars, honky-tonks, anywhere that would pay him $50 and a beer. Norman had been trying to make it as a country singer for 8 years. He'd recorded 1 demo tape, sent it to every label in Nashville, all rejections. In June 1979, Norman decided to try his luck in Austin. He'd heard the music scene there was better. He was driving from Nashville to Austin when he stopped at the Desert Star on June 21st. He checked in at 11:34 p.m., room 22. Norman brought his guitar into the room, played a few songs, sang softly.
Luther could hear him from the office. Luther's journal. Norman Keller, room 22, musician. Sad songs about lost love and highways. He won't make it in Austin, I can tell. He's not good enough. I'm doing him a favor. At 3 a.m., I went to his room. He was sitting on the bed, writing lyrics. He looked up when I came in, asked if he was being too loud. I said no, just checking if he needed anything. He smiled, said he was fine. I strangled him with a lamp cord while he was still smiling. He tried to grab his guitar like it could save him. It couldn't. 7 now. 7 in 9 days. I'm good at this. I could keep going, but I think it's time to stop. People will start asking questions. I'll take a break, let things cool down. Then maybe I'll start again. 7 people, 7 murders, 9 nights. And Luther Hayes documented every single one in his journal. When police searched his apartment, they found more than just the recent notebook. They found journals going back to 1975, hundreds of pages, fantasies about guests at previous motels where he'd worked, plans, rehearsals, practice runs, but no evidence of actual murders before June 1979. Had Luther killed before and not documented it? Or was June 14, 1979, his first kill? Police investigated, checked missing persons reports from every city where Luther had worked. They found 13 unsolved disappearances connected to motels where Luther was employed. Amarillo, 1962 to 1970, 4 missing guests. Lubbock, 1970 to 1973, 3 missing guests. Abilene, 1973 to 1977, 6 missing guests. All solo travelers, all checked in to motels on Luther's shift. All vanished, but no bodies were ever found. No evidence linking Luther to those cases, just suspicion, and the chilling possibility that 7 wasn't his final count. It was just the beginning.
June 23rd, 1979, 1 p.m. By early afternoon on June 23rd, El Paso police had a full picture of what happened at the Desert Star Motel. 7 victims, 7 rooms, 9 days of killing. And Luther Hayes, the mild-mannered night clerk, had vanished. Detective Richard Moreno led the investigation. He'd been with El Paso PD for 19 years, worked hundreds of cases, but nothing like this. This isn't a crime of passion, Moreno told his team. This is methodical, calculated. He planned every kill, cleaned up, went back to work, and nobody noticed. The question now, where was Luther Hayes? Police established a timeline of Luther's movements. June 22nd, 11 p.m. Luther arrived for his night shift at the Desert Star. Normal routine. June 23rd, 7 a.m. Luther's shift ended. He told manager Vernon Alcott that everything was quiet, no incidents. June 23rd, 7:15 a.m. Luther drove away from the motel in his 1971 Ford Pinto. Vernon watched him leave. June 23rd, 11:47 a.m. Vernon discovered Beverly Stein's body in room 14. June 23rd, 12:15 p.m. Police breached Luther's apartment, found it empty.
Somewhere between 7:15 a.m. and 12:15 p.m., Luther had cleaned out his apartment and disappeared. He had a 5-hour head start. Detective Marino issued an all-points bulletin. Wanted, Luther Franklin Hayes. White male, 57 years old, 5'9", 160 pounds, brown hair, balding, brown eyes. Last seen driving a 1971 Ford Pinto, tan color, Texas plates. Armed and dangerous. Wanted for 7 counts of first-degree murder. The APB went out to every law enforcement agency in Texas, New Mexico, Arizona, and Oklahoma. Highway Patrol, Border Patrol, local police, sheriff's departments. Everyone was looking for Luther Hayes. The investigation expands. While the manhunt continued, forensic teams processed the 7 crime scenes. Medical examiner Dr. Paul Chen performed autopsies on all 7 victims. Findings: Wayne Patterson, room 8. Cause of death: manual strangulation. Time of death: June 15th, approximately 2 a.m. Defensive wounds on hands, he fought back. Petechial hemorrhaging in eyes, classic strangulation signs. Judith Romano, room 5. Cause of death: asphyxiation by pillow. Time of death: June 17th, approximately 3 a.m. Scratches on forearms, attacker's arms. Fiber evidence from pillow in mouth and nose. Carl Benson, room 11. Cause of death: manual strangulation. Time of death: June 18th, approximately 2:30 a.m. Hyoid bone fractured, common in strangulation. Rita Benson, room 11. Cause of death: asphyxiation by pillow. Time of death: June 18th, approximately 2:35 a.m. Killed minutes after husband. Tear stains on face, she'd been crying. Isaiah Cruz, room 3. Cause of death: ligature strangulation, cord from window blinds. Time of death: June 19th, approximately 1 a.m. No defensive wounds. Died in his sleep. Beverly Stein, room 14. Cause of death: asphyxiation by plastic bag. Time of death: June 21st, approximately 2 a.m. High level of sleeping medication in system. Never regained consciousness. Norman Keller, room 22. Cause of death: ligature strangulation, electrical cord. Time of death: June 22nd, approximately 3 a.m. Defensive wounds on hands and neck. Fought back. Bruising suggests prolonged struggle, 5 to 7 minutes.
Forensic analysis revealed Luther's methods. He used different techniques to avoid a pattern: manual strangulation, pillows, cords, plastic bags. He wore gloves, no fingerprints found except the victims. He cleaned crime scenes meticulously. He timed his attacks for the dead of night, 1 a.m. to 3 a.m., when guests were in deepest sleep. He chose victims carefully: solo travelers, people who wouldn't be missed immediately, rooms far from the office, and he hid the bodies in plain sight, tucked under bedspreads and made beds. From the outside, the rooms looked empty and clean. "He's intelligent," Dr. Chen told detectives. "Organized. This wasn't impulsive. He knew exactly what he was doing." June 23rd, 6 p.m. 12 hours into the manhunt, there was no sign of Luther Hayes. His Ford Pinto hadn't been spotted. No pings on his credit card. He didn't have one. No sightings at bus stations, airports, or border crossings. He'd vanished into the Texas desert. Detective Moreno convened a press conference at El Paso Police Headquarters. Reporters from across Texas crowded the room. TV cameras, radio microphones. "We're looking for Luther Franklin Hayes in connection with 7 murders at the Desert Star Motel," Moreno said,
holding up Luther's employee photo. The photo showed a thin, balding man with sad eyes, wearing a motel uniform polo shirt, barely smiling. He looked harmless, forgettable. Hayes worked as the night clerk at the motel. He is extremely dangerous. If you see him, do not approach. Call 911 immediately. Moreno took questions. How did he kill them? We're not releasing those details at this time. Were the victims random? We believe Hayes selected victims based on opportunity, solo travelers, people passing through. Could there be more victims? Moreno hesitated. We're investigating that possibility. June 24th, the first lead. The next morning, El Paso police received a tip. A gas station attendant in Van Horn, Texas, 120 miles east of El Paso, reported seeing a man matching Luther's description. He bought $5 of gas and a pack of cigarettes yesterday around 9:47 a.m., driving a tan Pinto, paid cash, didn't say much, but I remembered him from the news. Detective Moreno and a team of officers drove to Van Horn. They interviewed the attendant, reviewed the station's security camera. Grainy but confirmed. Luther Hayes, June 23rd, 9:47 a.m. Which way did he leave when he left? East, toward Fort Stockton. Luther was heading deeper into Texas, away from the border, away from El Paso. But why? June 24th, 8 p.m. At 8:14 p.m., Texas Highway Patrol received a call from a motel owner in Fort Stockton, Texas, 60 miles east of Van Horn. I think the guy you're looking for just checked into my motel. Officer Dale Simmons responded. You sure it's him? I saw his picture on the news. It's him. He's in room 7, registered under the name Frank Miller, but it's him. Officer Simmons called for backup. Within 20 minutes, Fort Stockton police surrounded the Cactus Inn motel. Room 7's lights were on, curtains drawn, no movement visible. Sergeant Luis Ortega knocked on the door. Luther Hayes, this is Fort Stockton police. Come out with your hands up. Silence. Luther, we have the building surrounded. There's no way out. Open the door. Still nothing. Ortega nodded to his officers. They prepared to breach. Then the door opened. Luther Hayes stood in the doorway, thin, pale, wearing the same clothes from his employee photo. He raised his hands slowly. I'm not armed, Luther said quietly. I'm ready.
Luther Hayes was arrested at 8:42 p.m. on June 24, 1979, 25 hours after police discovered his first victim. He didn't resist, didn't run, didn't ask for a lawyer. As officers led him to the patrol car, a reporter shouted, "Why did you do it?" Luther looked at the camera and smiled. Because I could. The interrogation. Luther Hayes was transported to El Paso County Jail. Detective Moreno and FBI Special Agent Claire Dennison conducted the interrogation. June 25, 1979, 10 a.m. Luther sat at a metal table, hands cuffed, expression blank. Moreno read him his rights. Do you understand these rights? Yes. Do you want a lawyer? No. Are you willing to talk to us? Yes. Moreno opened a folder containing crime scene photos. Luther, we found 7 bodies at the Desert Star Motel, all killed between June 14th and June 22nd during your shifts. Luther nodded. I killed them. Moreno blinked. He'd expected denial, excuses, anything but immediate confession. You're admitting to 7 murders? Yes. I wrote it all down, in my journal. Did you find it? We did. Then you already know everything. For the next 4 hours, Luther Hayes confessed to everything. He described each murder in detail, the planning, the execution, the cleanup. He showed no remorse, no emotion, just matter-of-fact recitation. Agent Dennison asked, "Why did you start killing?"
Luther thought for a moment. "I've thought about it for years, since I was young, watching people come and go, wondering what it would feel like to have that much control, to decide whether someone lives or dies. But why June 14th? What changed?" "Nothing changed. I just decided it was time." "Did the victims do something to you?" "No, they were just there, convenient." "Do you feel guilty?" Luther looked confused by the question. "No, should I?" Detective Moreno asked about the earlier disappearances, the 13 missing people from Luther's previous motels. "Did you kill anyone before June 14th? Luther smiled. "I want to talk to a lawyer now." And that was it. He stopped talking. To this day, police don't know if Luther killed before the Desert Star. 13 people disappeared from motels where he worked. 13 families never got answers. Luther Hayes took that secret to prison.
August 1979. The trial begins. The state of Texas charged Luther Franklin Hayes with 7 counts of first-degree murder. The trial began on August 6, 1979, in El Paso County District Court. Presiding, Judge Walter Cunningham. Prosecution, District Attorney Margaret Flynn. Defense, Public Defender Thomas Garrett. Luther couldn't afford private counsel. The case was open and shut. Luther had confessed. The evidence was overwhelming, but Texas law required a trial. The prosecution's case took 3 days. D.A. Flynn presented. Luther's journals read aloud in court. Forensic evidence linking Luther to each victim. Testimony from medical examiner Dr. Paul Chen. Testimony from motel manager Vernon Alcott. Testimony from Fort Stockton police who arrested Luther. The jury sat in silence, horrified. Victim families sat in the gallery, crying. Luther sat at the defense table, expression blank. When D.A. Flynn showed crime scene photos, bodies tucked into beds, looking almost peaceful, several jurors looked away. The defense had nothing. Public defender Thomas Garrett tried to argue diminished capacity, that Luther was mentally ill, unable to understand his actions. But the journals proved otherwise. Luther knew exactly what he was doing. He planned, he adapted, he evaded detection. On cross-examination, D.A. Flynn asked Luther directly, "Mr. Hayes, did you know it was wrong to kill those people?" "Yes." "Did you know it was illegal?" "Yes." "Did you do it anyway?" "Yes." "Why?" "Because I wanted to." The verdict. The jury deliberated for 2 hours. August 12, 1979, 3:47 p.m. They returned with verdicts. Count 1, Wayne Patterson, guilty of first-degree murder. Count 2, Judith Romano, guilty of first-degree murder. Count 3, Carl Benson, guilty of first-degree murder. Count 4, Rita Benson, guilty of first-degree murder. Count 5, Isaiah Cruz, guilty of first-degree murder. Count 6, Beverly Stein, guilty of first-degree murder. Count 7, Norman Keller, guilty of first-degree murder. Luther Hayes showed no reaction. Sentencing. 2 weeks later, the sentencing phase began. In Texas, first-degree murder carried 2 possible sentences: life in prison or death penalty. D.A. Flynn argued for death. Luther Hayes is a predator. He killed 7 innocent people in cold blood. He showed no remorse. He would kill again if given the opportunity. The only way to ensure he never hurts anyone else is execution. The defense argued for life. Luther Hayes is mentally disturbed. He needs treatment, not execution. Life in prison without parole protects society while preserving his life. Victim families testified about their loss. Marco Romano, Judith's husband. My wife was a good person. She saved lives as a nurse. She loved our daughter, and this man took her away for no reason. He strangled her in her sleep. She never had a chance. He deserves to die. Paloma Cruz, Isaiah's widow, through a translator. My husband worked so hard to provide for us. He sent money home every week. Our children ask where Papa is. I don't know what to tell them. This man killed my husband for $87. How do you explain that to a child? The Benson family, Carl and Rita's son. My parents were good people. They taught school for 40 years. They helped thousands of children. They retired to enjoy their golden years together, and Luther Hayes murdered them in their sleep for no reason, just because he could. He deserves to live.
On September 5, 1979, Judge Cunningham delivered the sentence. Luther Franklin Hayes, you have been found guilty of 7 counts of first-degree murder. The jury recommends, and this court concurs, that you be sentenced to death by lethal injection. You will be remanded to Texas Department of Criminal Justice to await execution. May God have mercy on your soul. Luther Hayes was sent to death row. The victims' families. The trial brought no closure. Wayne Patterson's children. Wayne's son, Derek, and daughter Michelle attended the trial. They hadn't seen their father in years. The divorce had split the family. Derek told reporters, "I didn't have a great relationship with my dad, but he didn't deserve to die like that, alone in a motel room, strangled by a stranger. Nobody should die like that." Judith Romano's family. Marco Romano struggled to explain his wife's death to their daughter, Angela. How do I tell a 10-year-old that her mother was murdered by a motel clerk, that there was no reason, that she was just in the wrong place at the wrong time? Marco never remarried. He raised Angela alone. Angela Romano became a criminal justice prosecutor. She said in a 2010 interview, "My mother's murder shaped my entire life. I became a prosecutor to make sure people like Luther Hayes face justice." Carl and Rita Benson's family. Their son, Paul Benson, filed a wrongful death lawsuit against the Desert Star Motel. The motel had a duty to protect guests. They hired a serial killer. They gave him master keys. They never supervised him. They're responsible. The case settled out of court for an undisclosed amount. Paul donated the settlement to organizations supporting crime victims. Isaiah Cruz's family. Paloma Cruz struggled to support 3 children alone. Isaiah's construction company held a fundraiser, raised $12,000 for the family. The Mexican consulate helped Paloma navigate the American legal system. She returned to Juarez with her children, never came back to El Paso. Beverly Stein's family. Beverly's brother, Aaron Stein, became an advocate for motel safety regulations. He lobbied for mandatory security cameras in motel common areas,
better screening for overnight staff, chain lock requirements on all room doors, regular welfare checks on solo guests. Some states adopted these measures, others didn't. Norman Keller's family. Norman's mother, Patricia Keller, kept his guitar. She never listened to music again. At Norman's funeral, a local musician played Norman's unfinished song, Desert Roads, the lyrics he'd written before he died. Desert roads go on forever, take you places you don't know. Some roads lead you home to safety, some roads just won't let you go. He'd never finish the last verse. The Desert Star Motel. After the murders, the Desert Star Motel struggled to survive. Nobody wanted to stay in a place where 7 people were killed. Manager Vernon Alcott quit, couldn't work there anymore. The owners tried to rebrand, changed the name to Cactus Motor Lodge, repainted, renovated. It didn't help. By 1982, the motel went bankrupt. It sat abandoned for 3 years. In 1985, it was demolished. Today, the site is a vacant lot, nothing but sand and scrub brush. Locals avoid it, say it's cursed.
Luther Hayes on death row. Luther Hayes spent 14 years on death row. He was housed at the Texas Department of Criminal Justice Polunsky Unit, a maximum security prison in Livingston, Texas. Death row inmates live in solitary confinement, 23 hours a day in a 6x10 cell, 1 hour of recreation alone, no human contact except guards and lawyers. Luther adapted well. He read books, wrote letters, kept journals. Guards described him as a model inmate, quiet, polite, no disciplinary problems. But beneath that calm surface, Luther remained a predator. In 1985, true crime author Barbara Yates interviewed Luther for a book about the Desert Star murders. She asked, "Do you regret what you did?" "No." "Do you think about your victims?" "Sometimes." "What do you think?" "I think about how easy it was, how long I got away with it, how I could have kept going if I'd been more careful." "You sound like you enjoyed it." Luther smiled. "I did." In 1989, psychiatrist Dr. Helen Ortega conducted a psychiatric evaluation of Luther for an appeals process. She diagnosed him with antisocial personality disorder, narcissistic personality disorder, sexual sadism. He derived pleasure from control, not the act itself. Dr. Ortega's report concluded, Luther Hayes exhibits classic psychopathic traits, lack of empathy, remorselessness, grandiosity, and predatory behavior. He views other humans as objects to be manipulated and controlled. He killed not out of anger or psychosis, but out of curiosity and pleasure. He is one of the most dangerous individuals I've assessed. He should never be released under any circumstances. The appeals. Luther Hayes' defense team filed multiple appeals between 1979 and 1993. Appeal 1, 1981, argued ineffective counsel, denied. Appeal 2, 1984, argued jury bias, denied. Appeal 3, 1987, argued cruel and unusual punishment, denied. Appeal 4, 1990, argued new evidence alleged mental illness, denied. Appeal 5, 1993, final appeal to U.S. Supreme Court, denied. All legal options exhausted. Execution date set, November 12, 1993. November 12, 1993, the execution. Luther Franklin Hayes was executed by lethal injection at the Huntsville Unit Prison in Huntsville, Texas.
Time of death, 6:18 p.m. He was 61 years old. He'd spent 14 years on death row. Victim families attended as witnesses. Marco Romano, Judith's husband. I watched Luther die. I thought it would make me feel better. It didn't. Judith is still gone. Our daughter grew up without a mother. His death doesn't change that. Derek Patterson, Wayne's son. I'm glad he's dead. He deserves it. But it took 14 years. 14 years of appeals and delays. My dad died in 3 minutes. Luther got 14 more years than he deserved.
Luther Hayes's last words. I have nothing to say to the families. I'm not sorry. I did what I wanted to do. That's all that matters. He closed his eyes. The lethal injection was administered. He died quietly. No struggle. No final dramatic moment. Just silence. The unanswered questions. After Luther's death, investigators reopened cold cases from his previous employment locations. Amarillo, Texas, 1962 to 1970. 4 people disappeared from motels where Luther worked night shifts. Donna Mitchell, 34, 1965. Checked into motel, never checked out. Gerald Banks, 41, 1967. Truck driver, car found in motel lot, body never found. Sandra Diaz, 29, 1968. Traveling nurse, vanished after motel stay. Timothy Young, 52, 1970. Salesman, last seen at Luther's motel. Lubbock, Texas, 1970 to 1973. 3 disappearances. Carol Jensen, 38, 1971. William Frost, 45, 1972, construction worker. Rita Coleman, 51, 1973, widow traveling to a funeral. Abilene, Texas, 1973 to 1977, 6 disappearances. Howard Mills, 39, 1973. Denise Harper, 31, 1974. Barry Sutton, 44, 1975. Claudette Ramos, 42, 1976. Eugene Parks, 56, 1976. Melinda Cross, 27, 1977. All 13 people checked into motels during Luther's night shift. Solo travelers, paid cash, never heard from again. 0 bodies ever recovered. Police conducted searches around motels where Luther worked. Nothing found. If Luther killed those 13 people, where are the bodies? Theory 1. Desert burials. Texas has millions of acres of empty desert. A body buried deep enough would never be found. Theory 2. Luther disposed of bodies differently in earlier years. He was learning, refining his methods. Theory 3. Luther didn't kill them. The disappearances are coincidental. Most investigators believe Theory 1. Luther killed before the Desert Star. He just got better at hiding it. But without evidence, without confession, the 13 remain missing persons. Their families never got closure. The psychological profile. After Luther's execution, the FBI's Behavioral Analysis Unit studied his case. They created a psychological profile that's now used to train law enforcement. Luther Hayes, a profile of a serial killer.
Typology: organized serial killer, mission-oriented. Motive: power and control, not sexual gratification. Method: methodical selection of vulnerable victims, careful planning, and cleanup. Signature: tucking victims into bed, symbolic of putting them to sleep. Psychological traits: high intelligence, extreme patience, ability to blend into normal society, no outward signs of violence or instability. Compartmentalization: could kill, then work normally. Key warning signs missed: extreme social isolation, no romantic relationships ever, obsessive interest in true crime, journal keeping about violent fantasies, history of voyeuristic behavior, watching guests. FBI profiler Dr. Anthony Grant, in a 1995 interview, said, "Luther Hayes is what we call a successful psychopath. He functioned in society, held jobs, paid taxes, never got in trouble. But inside, he was completely devoid of empathy. He viewed humans the way a hunter views deer, as prey. The motel setting gave him perfect access to victims. He was literally given keys to their rooms, trusted with their safety, and he exploited that trust to kill them."
Motel industry changes. The Desert Star murders led to industry-wide changes in motel safety. New standards implemented 1980s to 1990s. Security cameras required in parking lots and common areas. Background checks mandatory for all staff with guest access. Chain locks required on all room doors, guest-controlled. Panic buttons installed in some higher-end motels. Staff training on recognizing suspicious behavior. Solo traveler protocols, welfare checks, contact information verification. Results: solo traveler murders at motels decreased by 43% between 1980 and 1990. But budget motels often skip expensive security measures. The risk remains. Cultural impact. The Desert Star murders entered American consciousness. In 1985, TV movie Nightmare at the Desert Star aired on NBC, dramatized version of the case. In 1987, book The Motel Killer by Barbara Yates became a bestseller. In 1992, Unsolved Mysteries featured the case, focusing on the 13 missing persons. In 2005, Investigation Discovery aired The Night Shift Killer documentary. In 2019, on the 40th anniversary, multiple podcasts covered the case. The story became a cautionary tale. Be careful where you stay, lock your doors, don't travel alone. Motels, especially cheap roadside ones, gained a sinister reputation. Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho had planted the seed in 1960. Luther Hayes watered it with blood. The families today. Most victim families have aged or passed away. Marco Romano died in 2015. His daughter Angela spoke at his funeral. "My father never recovered from losing my mother. He dated a few times but never remarried. He said nobody could replace her. The Desert Star took my mother's life, but it also took my father's future. He died lonely." Paloma Cruz returned to Juarez. Her children grew up without their father. One son became a police officer. He said, "I became a cop because of what happened to my father. I wanted to protect people, make sure nobody else's family goes through what we did." The Benson family established a scholarship in Carl and Rita's names. It provides funding for retired teachers to travel safely. Our parents loved traveling. Luther Hayes took that away. We want to help others experience what they couldn't. Norman Keller's mother, Patricia, died in 2001.
At her funeral, Norman's guitar was placed in her casket. She wanted to be buried with it. Maybe she'll hear him play again, Norman's sister said. Lessons learned. What do we learn from the Desert Star murders? Lesson 1. Evil can hide in sight plain. Luther Hayes wasn't a wild-eyed maniac. He was a quiet, polite motel clerk. He could have been your neighbor, your co-worker, the person who helps you at the store. Predators don't always look like predators. Lesson 2. Vulnerability attracts predators. All 7 victims were traveling alone, tired, vulnerable, easy targets. Predators seek weakness, exploit it. Lesson 3. Society often misses warning signs. Luther kept journals about murder fantasies for years. He isolated himself socially. He had no normal relationships. Nobody noticed. Nobody intervened. By the time anyone realized something was wrong, 7 people were dead. Lesson 4. Some people cannot be fixed. Luther Hayes never showed remorse, never felt guilt, never wanted to change. He was a psychopath, and psychopaths don't get better. They just get better at hiding. 7 people checked in to the Desert Star Motel in June 1979. Wayne Patterson, Judith Romano, Carl and Rita Benson, Isaiah Cruz, Beverly Stein, Norman Keller. They were truck drivers, salespeople, retirees, workers, nurses, musicians. They were just passing through, looking for a cheap place to rest, a safe place to sleep. And they met Luther Hayes, a man who saw them not as people, but as opportunities, who killed them quietly, methodically, without mercy. 7 lives ended, 7 families destroyed, 13 more cases unsolved. All because one man had access, opportunity, and no conscience. This was the Desert Star Motel murders.